Since 2015, there has been a Tennessee Williams Festival here. The 2021 festival put on The Glass Menagerie, Williams' semi-autobiographical play set in St. Louis. They staged it at the real and symbolic fire escapes behind one of the Williams family's apartments in the Central West End. In addition to performances, there were plenty of lectures and panel discussions. Washington University drama professor Henry Schwey was one of the speakers. He's written a book, Blue Song, St. Louis in the Life and Work of Tennessee Williams.
But you asked why the book, and I think the book was written to figure out what this relationship was.
And now you get into this what if, but could there be a Tennessee Williams as we know him without the experiences he faced in St. Louis?
I would say no.
The family came to St. Louis from Clarksdale, Mississippi, when Tennessee Williams' father got a job at the International Shoe Company headquarters. Tennessee, then Tom, was just 8, and his mother was unhappy here, his father abusive, his sister in the early stages of mental illness. So let me ask you this. There's 2 factors here of things that are fraught with conflict. One is the city and the new environment, and the other is the family.
Yes.
I think that family in any city may have resulted in the same writer.
Yes. But it was compounded by things. He always romanticized the South. He romanticized the place he had been uprooted from. So that's an important aspect of it. You're right. That family would have arguably destroyed emotionally anyone. It destroyed his sister. Yeah. There were all sorts of influences there, but in answer to that specific question, no. Without St. Louis, he would not have been the same writer by any stretch. I mean, obviously we can say that about anyone. But in this case, St. Louis was much more than the sum total of negative influences. It had many positive influences. Teachers at these formidable schools, Ben Blewett, University City High School, University of Missouri, Washington University.
We're talking the positive part of St. Louis
I'm talking
here.
positive.
The educational system,
yes.
the arts availability, the
Absolutely.
theater, all of that. Tom started to write even in junior high. He published some stories in high school. He went to the University of Missouri, but his father pulled him out of school and got him a job at the shoe company downtown. He hated the job, but he was immersed in a working-class world and Depression-era left-wing politics. I think sometimes people forget that St. Louis in the 30s was real hotbed of some pretty radical politics.
Yes.
There were socialists and communists. There were marches on City Hall.
So Williams was exposed to these different ideas than a normal, quote-unquote, middle-class kid would be exposed to. So again, this is another way in which being in St. Louis widened his horizon.
In a way that he wouldn't have found
Never.
in a small town.
Of course not.
Right.
And even in a strange way, it's because of the way that adversity works. Remarkably, as a great artist, he soaked it up. Williams cut his teeth in St. Louis as a playwright in a number of plays that have a very strong social component.
When he went to Washington University, Tennessee Williams was writing poetry and plays. And the story goes that when he didn't win the one-act play competition in his drama class, he angrily left the university. But there's more to it than that. And Professor Schwey himself helped provide some of the evidence, which led to the book title, Blue Song.
The title of the book relates to the discovery of a poem in a New Orleans bookstore in 2005. I saw this, and it stunned me, of course, because it says Washington University Stores, Campus Store, Brookings
It was
Hall,
Tom Williams' Greek test. He did poorly, and he knew he would fail the class. Williams was feeling a failure, sad, lost, hopeless. We know that because in the same booklet in pencil he wrote a poem about being sad and lost and hopeless, which he titled Blue Song.
So the story, as you suggest, goes that, well, he left in a huff. but it is much more complicated. He was miserable for reasons not having to do with the city. He was miserable because of what was happening in his family.
But for a man who really doesn't have a home, writing is his home.
Yes, absolutely. No, that's
The
very
typewriter,
profound. Yes.
the pen and paper, that's where he lives. That's where he belongs.
Yes. And that, as is commonly written about, saved his life. I think it's a foregone conclusion, or all but, that he would have ended up like Rose. You know, he was plagued by mental illness throughout his life. And I think what saved him was his addiction, his compulsion to write.
His first Broadway success was The Glass Menagerie. As he matured as a writer, he moved from the political to the personal, psychological themes based strongly on his family, and with scenes, even if set in the South, that continued to draw on his experiences in St. Louis, and often the desire to escape.
He was constantly trying to run away, to leave where he was. But I think that the moral, if you like, of William's life is that running away was profoundly and tragically impossible. It's not a coincidence that he's buried here in Calvary Cemetery, although people would say that it's ironic and it's inappropriate. I think it's significant because his life was one of attempted escape, but really it's about the impossibility of escape.
And he never lived anywhere longer as he lived in St. Louis.
No, we think of his having left St. Louis for New Orleans, let's say, or New York, or even Provincetown. But these places, I'm not diminishing the importance of New Orleans, but I think that what he found in New Orleans was, of course, necessary. It counterbalanced St. Louis and the sort of middle-class world, but he never escaped it. He never escaped St. Louis. St. Louis was in his blood because, I mean, in his very last plays, he's still writing portraits of his mother and father. And of course, so many of his plays throughout the decades owe a tremendous debt to his sister. And he was always trying to write her story and write his own through her story. And that never changed. It's there in the very, very last things that he wrote. He's still dealing with mental illness, with claustrophobia, with escape, with madness, and with women, analogs of Rose.
Like it or not, he really could not put St. Louis behind him.
He never escaped. He never did.